All right, so today we've had, over the last little while, we've had some questions and people have asked why we've become chiropractors. And so each of us are going to probably go into our history a little bit. Most chiropractors that I know have had a positive experience, from either childhood or late teens. For myself, I probably had my first adjustment before I even realized when I was a baby. My grandfather and uncle were both chiropractors. But on reflecting what I really felt as a child, I think mine started from, like many others, from having falls, lots of little sporting injury. And I remember my first fall. I was about 4.5 years old, and we had a cat named Snowball. And Snowball liked to climb up bookcases and hide in windowsills in our basement. So I decided to chase Snowball, and Snowball went up the bookcase, and I decided to climb up the bookcase with Snowball. And I reached the top shelf, and the shelf gave way, and I remember falling. I remember waking up and probably having a good cry, and then the next moment I remember waking up in the hospital and asking for grape juice. From there I remember vomiting on the nurse, and as a child you kind of push a lot of those little injuries, those falls. Sometimes you tell your parents, sometimes you don't. But these falls and sporting injuries tend to accumulate in our younger generation. And with that, I think I started to suffer from headaches when probably around 7 or 8 years old. And I wasn't very good at taking medication or pills. So Panadol or Tylenol back in Canada didn't have much of effect. But what I realized is when I was adjusted, my headaches would go away. And if I was adjusted, the headaches wouldn't lead to migraines. And that was probably the biggest changer for me. I think I remember saying when I was around 8 years old, I wanted to be like my grandfather. At that same time, kids are always playing sport. And at that time, I started playing ice hockey when I was about 5, and soccer around the same time. So with ice hockey, obviously there's lots of physical trauma, as well as micro trauma, and it accumulates. So lots of little upper body injuries, shoulder injuries, dislocations, fractured jaws, concussions, broken bones, etc. And often chiropractic was there to help me. But the sport that I felt the biggest challenge for my body was soccer, and running on the hard ground, the shearing forces, they would cause aches and pains in my legs after the game, most of the time at night, and the doctors at that time said I had growing pains. But what I realized, these growing pains would disappear after I was adjusted or treated by, not at that time by my grandfather, but our local chiropractors in the area. So again, it reinforced the benefit of chiropractic to me. And often I would tell my mom, I don't have pain, but I felt like I needed to go. And it's becoming more aware of my body. So in my later years of ice hockey, we were lucky to have a chiropractor that sponsored our hockey team, and he adjusted completely different than my grandfather. And even though it was different, I still had a good effect, and it kept a lot of the pain away and kept me going. So I guess my passion is to prevent those injuries from having long-term effects and helping other little athletes succeed in their dreams. So that's my story of why I became a chiropractor.